Hello, Happy on Purpose. I'm your host, Janess Pearson, and today's conversation sits right in the intersection of self awareness and personal growth. My guest is Adrienne Harris, a coach who works with numerology as a practical framework to help people understand their personal patterns, strengths, and decision making tendencies, especially when it comes to relationships and self leadership. We'll explore how understanding your energetic blueprint can offer real world tools for clearer decisions, healthier relationships, and more aligned choices that reflect who you actually authentically are. So let's get into it. Thanks for being here, Adrienne.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I, as we were saying before, we do know each other through the beauty of Facebook, but we've never actually met. So I'm finding out all this goodness as the listeners are. So I'm just so excited and curious because it's not something I know much about.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? It's really very different, but at the same time, it's actually ancient. So it's going to pull us back into our roots. And when we were talking a little bit before, you said, "Oh, I got goosebumps," and that's
Yes.
remembering you have.
Wow. I used to, when I would be in sessions with clients, I always knew that to be a telltale sign for truth. And it would always catch me, and or the little hairs on the back of the neck. You're
Yep.
like, okay, I'm here. We're here. We're in the room. So I love that. That's always been sort of a guide for me in knowing.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So, Adrienne, before we get into the work itself, can you tell us a bit about your journey? Like, what drew you to numerology as a tool for personal growth and coaching?
Yeah, so I've actually just written a book on this. So I wrote a book about my spiritual awakening. But numerology found me. I really didn't find it. I actually stepped into a workshop online, and the lady said, "Okay, well, let's calculate your ruling number." We calculated my ruling number. When you add up all the numbers of my birthday together, it comes to 29. So 2 plus 9 equals an 11, and 11 is a master number in numerology. So I'm meant to be the wounded healer. I'm meant to be a spiritual teacher. So,
Wow.
yeah. And at the time, I still lived where I lived. I still did what I did. I had a business where I actually babysat rich people's homes for 10 years. And that's who I was seen in the community. And when I found out this information, I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, my soul literally changed the trajectory of my life 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's not an uncommon story, right? When you think you're doing your thing and something,
Yeah.
just something like takes you a different path if you're open for it. I always refer to the heroine's journey,
Mm,
right? Or the hero's journey
yeah.
when you accept the call.
Yeah, and it was my intuition that kept talking to me, and I didn't really know at the time. And I actually write about this in my book. I didn't know that's what it was at the time because you can imagine taking care of affluent people. There were circumstances and situations that came up. And I finally got to this point, and not to say that it was beneath me or anything, but I just said, you know what, I am not placed on this earth
Mm.
to do this. And that's where the intuition came from. There was like this whispering that came to me, and it was like, you're made for more. You need to be doing something different. And I convinced my husband to sell the business after he kind of got fed up with it as well too. And yeah, and then it just led me down a totally different path, into a spiritual path, into yoga and understanding spirituality, and then
Mm.
eventually, what I do today. So yeah, it was quite a journey.
Yeah, I had read somewhere in your information that you had actually started out with positive psychology. And
Yes.
that stood out because I love it. I also did a deep dive. I trained with Robert Biswas Diener and his dad, Ed Diener, way back when, and got
Hmm.
my positive psychology coaching certificate. So
Yeah.
I love, and I do find there's a crossover with positive psychology.
There is, and quite often, and I think so. I use my positive psychology coaching or training to help me lean into the parts, like, it's how people naturally innately show up. I also
Mm.
see that is almost like a mirror in numerology as well too. And the really cool part is that even for myself, so communication is really high in my traits, and so the way that I learn is by communicating and by talking about
Mm.
it and by teaching. And so I quite often, when I'm working with people, I can intuitively pick up what some of those traits are, especially responsibility. That's a tough one. And also people's beliefs as well too.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, belief systems, values, and beliefs, right? They
yeah.
can either excel our transformation or hold us back.
Yeah, and when I was doing my positive psychology coaching and training and that kind of thing, one of the things that I found about myself was I actually was picking up patterns of
Mm.
people. So my practicum was to work with 10 people, and that's not my style. I kind of, I actually 10 times did. So I actually worked with 100 clients so that I could really understand how people's natural innate strengths were showing up in their lives and all these other kinds of things. And then that's when I realized that I was a pattern. Like I'm here to feel and understand people's patterns, and then that's actually what led me into becoming a numerologist.
I love that. Yeah, patterns are a big deal. Hey, how do you, like, you've used the word intuition, so I know that's got to be a big part of it. But how do you know when you're on the right track with uncovering people's patterns?
So, well, before we started this call, I grabbed your birthday, and everything is coded in your birthday. Absolutely everything. So I can see the patterns that you have. I can see the things that you might struggle with. I can see all sorts of things. I can also see your karma that you're going through. And so, what the whole idea is I actually sit here with someone's chart in front of me. I look at it, and then as we're talking, I can intuitively feel things. So,
Mm,
even just looking at your chart, I can see that you have two sixes in your chart. And so, therefore, you are very big on your family, like the whole family dynamics. And it's
absolutely.
very important to you. And it's so funny because my partner has two sixes.
Mm,
And when I was dating in my late 40s, I was looking at different people's numerology and, came up with my partner. And I say that numerology is something that needs to be experienced.
mm.
And so that's what I've done for the last, 5 years is experience people's energetics, how they show up, and then they just show up as patterns to me. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. I think there's a big difference between being, say, a psychic,
Hmm.
and I don't even know why I put it in air quotes because I fully believe, and then other people that have just really finely tuned their intuition.
Yeah.
Um, I think that whole space is just so fascinating because I think we all have some degree of it. It's just not a skill we use, or we poo-poo it.
Well, and also the big thing is that we also haven't been taught. So we come from this world of, going to school and learning psychology through Freud or, whatever it is, the masters. And I mean, obviously we needed them. However, we also have these other people like Carl Jung and Edgar
Mm,
Cayce and all of these other people who weren't front and center when it came to learning psychology. And really, I think that we've been so pulled off of our natural patterns of intuition that now we are just making a little bit more accessible. And so
yeah.
I remember trying to get my counseling, like going to school and doing my counseling, and it was almost kind of like universe source was like, nope, you're not going that way. And it led me down the path to where I am today. So this is why I kind of believe in these energetics, and I've actually written about them in my book because it really comes down to, everyone has their own unique journey and path, and I just
Mm.
like to help people see their life through my lens or through a reflection of the lens that I see them through. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
bet. So that kind of answered the next question. So I'm going to just slip over to patterns because we talked about it. But I do love strength-based work. I've always found that instead of shaming people for not doing well in something they aren't natural at, praising them for something that they naturally comes easier to them, especially once you get out of school.
Yeah.
So, how does numerology help people understand their patterns, especially the ones that run their decisions and relationships? That sort of transposed over a strength based lens.
Yeah, so really interesting because many of the people patterns that people struggle with, like overgiving, indecision, emotional withdrawals, and that kind of stuff, they are not flaws. They're just adaptive responses that these
Mm.
people have had, which has kept them safe. However, numerology helps you see that because with numerology, it's dualistic. So we have an empowered and a disempowered side. And soon as people see their disempowered way of living, they fully understand it. So someone who is like a ruling number six, their energetics are all about family and love and peace and harmony and keeping things even. But their disempowered state is over responsibility, people pleasing, and also avoiding conflict.
Is mine a ruling six?
No, but you have double
Okay.
sixes in your chart, so I
I
can see
have
that.
all of those tendencies. That has
Yeah.
been my life's work.
Yeah, so this is the neat thing is that I mean once you learn and understand the basic numbers of 1 through 9, it really is actually very simple. But it's
Yeah.
something that you have to experience. It's something that you have to like I'm not saying that someone has to believe, but and you don't need to be spiritual. Like
Mm.
those are neither of the things, but you have to be willing to notice the patterns and reflect honestly. This is where the real work happens, and this is where I'm hoping to see it go mainstream. Like my vision is to empower 100 million people to understand their actual like soul codes.
Soul codes. Is that
Yeah.
an actual term? Is that what you would say when you give someone
Yeah, it's what
reading?
I call because you are coded. Everyone is coded based upon their birthday, and it's coded to your soul. It's coded to your energetics. And so, my mentor calls it energetic advantage. My other, mentor calls it something else. I like to call it soul codes and cosmic alignments because really I like to layer not only numerology but then also astrology because we're Geminis, and as we are Geminis, that also layers into what it is and who we are and how we show up in this world. So, not to label anyone, but your soul came here for an experience, and by understanding its code, you can navigate this world better.
Oh, it's so interesting. I can't remember if we said it when we were recording or prior, but that this is ancient. This is
Yes.
not some new woo woo
Nope.
made up, thing. This is an ancient way of looking. Can you just maybe elaborate on that a little? Like
Sure.
where does it come from? How
So
does the day you're born affect?
yeah, so I dated back as and this is the work of Pythagoras. And
Right.
so Pythagoras was actually studying the energy waves of music. So if you understand music, there's actually 9 main notes in music. There's
Mm.
9 numbers in numerology. Like it's that simple. And it really is about energy and frequency. And so it dates back to Chaldean times. Like and I actually believe that it dates back further to that
Mm.
because numerology is also tied to sacred geometry, and sacred geometry is tied to Mother Nature. So I do believe that the world that we live in is very mathematical, not the same math that we were taught in
Mm.
school, but it is about patterns. It is about things. If you look at Mother Nature, you will see spirals. You will see things come in sequential orders. You even look at a turtle. It's got 13 pieces to its shell, right? Like there's so many things that we can take a look in numerology or in Mother Nature, and it not only that, it mirrors in numerology. I work with a unique system that is tied to the 4 seasons and to the 12 months and the 365 days of the year. And the 7 52-day periods, which equals 364, and then we have 1 day for the shift. And so it all really makes sense, but you have to allow yourself to open yourself up to
Mm.
understanding it from just a different lens. That's all.
Yeah. Can you maybe explain, because it feels a little abstract for somebody that hasn't experienced it, but when you say energy and frequencies, just what does that, like, how do we sort of layman terms that for somebody?
Yeah, so one of my favorite numbers to talk about is the energy of five. So if you
Okay.
think about it, take a look. If you think about numbers 1 through 9, think about them in your head. Number five is right in the middle, right? So
Mhm.
we have 1 2 3 4, then 5 6 7 8 9. And five is that middle number. It's the pivot. We get to five, and you also think about the five. It's actually blocked in by 4 and 4, right? But the five is also, it wants its freedom, it wants adventure, it wants experience. So when I meet people who are ruling number five, when I meet people who are have five energy in their chart or in their birthday, they are literally those type of people. If they get antsy, they can't sit. Like, I
Mhm.
think about these poor kids that are ruling number fives in school, and they have to sit their butt down and go to school and learn. Like, all they want to do is be getting out and having adventure and freedom.
Right.
And so this is a big thing, is this is how to experience it. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I think that there is no real clear way to explain it. It feels like it's more of an experience. And once you say something like that, it's like, oh, okay, I get that. That
Yeah.
people just walk differently in the world. They have
Hmm.
I'm going to say energy too. I think we sort of
Yep.
somehow know what it means, but I
Yeah.
think I'm just looking for some sort of explanation. Maybe there isn't one.
Yeah, and so let's use you for example. You are a three energy.
Okay.
You're ruling number three. When I add all the numbers of your birthday together, it comes to 39. So 3 plus 9 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So we always take it down to a base number between 2 and 11. And the whole idea of that is to help you understand, like, it's like your overall arching energy. So you need a creative outlet. Without a
Mhm.
creative outlet, you feel stagnant, you feel stuck, you feel like you're not having purpose in this world. So you even just doing this podcast is
Mhm.
about you having, expressing your creative energy. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah, so you need to have that. Oh, I got full goosies telling you that. So this is your truth. And so the three loves to talk, it loves to create, it loves to have this self expression.
Mhm.
And it's very different than a four, because a four loves structure, stability, organization, building foundations. I think there's a lot of people who work in fours that are very, these would be like the architects and all
Yeah.
these other kinds of things, because they like that. So, um, and it's how we experience each other's energy is how we can understand ourselves in a different way. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I could trace back that creative urge to 8 years old and just needing to be in the garage or somewhere hammering nails, stringing elastics, making little yarn dolls. And even now, being a theater kid and an adult with all of that, I always need something. Even just ask ChatGPT. It's like, Lord, lady, you got too many ideas. Then I'm like, I know. It's
I
crazy.
love it. Yeah, because it's what your soul is here to do. It's here to create. And there's other layers to you as well too, but your day energy is an eight. And so that eight energy likes achievement. It likes
Mhm.
checking things off the box because it's here to master itself. And so, and the reason I can share this is my partner has an eight energy day, and he drives truck for a
Mhm.
local trucking company, and he loves it when he's just like got a super busy day, because he's like, oh, I got so much done today. And he
Totally.
comes home with this like sense of achievement. And so when there's a bit of a slower day, he's like, meh, didn't get much done. So It's part of that energetic, and I actually work with a ruling number 8 as my
Mm.
assistant, and she's like, okay, what's next, and I have to give her these projects because if not, then she's knocking on my door saying, what can I do to help you?
Right,
Yeah,
right. Being of service in some way.
yeah,
That's so interesting. So we've talked a little bit about the personal. I'd like to dive into sort of the leadership, self-leadership, which is it's such an interesting term, self-leadership, one that I think needs to be explored a lot more because we really don't talk about it much, even in, well, maybe we just word it differently, right? It's that it in the counseling world, it makes sense, but in the real world, self-leadership sounds like a task to do. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Be productive, get out, lead yourself into success, whatever success is. Is that how you still see that word self leadership in your work?
Yeah, so for me, self-leadership really actually ties to emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So for myself personally, that is what my soul has come here to learn. I call it the inner currency because each soul has come here to learn a specific thing. Mine is emotional intelligence, and this looks like, as a leader, it looks like pausing before reacting. It
Mm,
looks like choosing to rest instead of pushing forward. It looks like saying no without over explaining and setting healthy boundaries. And so, depending upon someone's energetics, it can be very specific and different. So, when someone understands their actual energetic blueprint, they stop forcing themselves to lead. They actually, and then they learn how to work in ways that don't actually drain them. So,
mm,
leadership, I believe, needs to become embodied, and it's not a performance thing. It really comes down to how do you work in this world? I just work with a client who is in the dating world, and she's older in life and she's met somebody and she's like, and I said, listen, I said, this is how you're wired. This is how you are made. And the thing is that you have to actually verbalize and talk to that person about, who you are, because that is self leadership. By telling somebody, here's who I am and this is what I need, that is leading yourself. Does that make sense? Does that answer
oh,
your question?
absolutely. With the word I just wrote down was it feels the same as that wisdom integration that I've been known to talk about before is once you finally get it,
Yeah.
you can know it, right? You can intellectualize it, but once that wisdom that you've gained becomes integrated into who you are, everything changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
this that
you stop apologizing for being yourself, which I think is such an important piece to self-leadership.
yeah, because I think that's what I was trying to get at when I was trying to explain it is when we think leadership, there's a tendency to think do more, grow more, be faster, be bigger. But self leadership, I think the most powerful thing, well, specifically, I can say for me, has been learning where I end and where other people begin,
Yep.
understanding my boundaries, working on enmeshment, all the codependent, all the terms that we use.
Yep.
I mean, that has been a 25 plus year journey
Yeah.
for me. And just now I've kind of gone, okay, I'm in the self leadership at 56. I'm cruising in there. And I think it would be such a good service, like you said, about younger people and even moving forward for more people to just understand and get that. That in itself would be life changing.
Yeah, and I will actually tell you why I do what I do. My why actually ties back to my son. So when he was 16 years old, this is sort of when I started to get into this whole world of, I don't want to say self-help, but just understanding myself up. I actually grew up with a lot of trauma, so I've got that 30 plus years of,
Mm,
counseling and stuff like that under my belt, working with counselors. And I really wanted to understand why I was the way I was, especially
mm,
raising a child with CPTSD.
mm,
And so this was one of the reasons I really wanted to understand myself. That's how come I got into, positive psychology coaching and all these other kinds of things, because I really just wanted to understand me. And then it led me down this path. And so Yeah, like I look at someone's chart, and especially these kids who are born in the 2000s, I really wanted to understand my child. And he was born in 2003, and I even see it show up to this day why he's not as motivated as other kids. He
Mm,
doesn't have the arrow of determination in his chart. He's missing a 1 and a 9. And so, therefore, it creates an arrow of energetics that he doesn't have. So, when in the past he's had to shift or change, I've come along and I've helped him. And that's all I want people to do, is for them to understand how they're wired and
mm.
how to navigate this world in their own unique way.
Yeah, I got three kids from the 2000s.
They're super sensitive.
Actually, between Rob and I, because we're blended, we have five young
Wow.
adults. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the 2000s. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely we have lots of good conversation. You had said about family. They're literally my main priority
Yep.
always is my
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Hmm.
So do you talked about this, but maybe just a little more about the other modalities because it does seem like there'd be so much overlap. And I think having now heard you speak a little more, it makes sense that you would be doing what you're doing because
Hmm.
you've spent a lifetime, a literal lifetime trying to crack the code of Adrienne.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had children. It's like, oh, we want to be the best for them. Would you suggest people have their numerology, would you say numerology charts? Is that the right way to say
Yeah.
it?
Or blueprint. Yeah.
For children.
So I do have a couple of clients that have kids. I have a client that actually has a ruling number 5, and her daughter was constantly like, nagging her kind of thing. And I said, well, you're raising a ruling number 5. You need to have things for her to do and her to have movement and experiences.
Mm,
So her daughter, they went into they did a like a pantomime together over Christmas. Like they actually like went to the local theater and we're
mm,
in part of that. And it's the whole idea is that you can support someone based upon that. So I don't want to get too deep into my son's chart, but he is
mm, mm,
actually got leadership energy, not only in his ruling number, but also in his day number. And quite often, I see people show up in that disempowered state where they don't want to be a leader. And we were just talking about
mm,
leadership. Leadership isn't about like standing at the front of the line and saying I'm going to go first, but every job he's ever had, he's been pushed into a lead hand or responsibility and all of these kinds of things because they're naturally coded for it. And this is the thing that I always come back to is it's your natural tendencies, kind of like the way it is with positive psychology.
mm,
You just naturally have these tendencies, this innate ability that people don't realize.
mm.
Yeah.
What do you think happens when people don't listen to that? Because as a society, right, it's all about that: be better, be bigger, push harder, be a stronger leader. And I think when you don't listen to what you really are, you miss giving all this the goodness to the world that you already come with. So when people are pushing against their numbers,
Hmm.
do you often see that and people go, well, I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I'm a master 11, so I'm actually the mirror. So
yeah.
I do for reflect back to people the parts of themselves that they sometimes are not wanting to deal with or whatever. I have a mastermind right now, and each one of these women are becoming the own leaders of their lives. So,
Mm,
leadership, we have to really take a look at the definition of that word. Leadership it just means you becoming your own authority. And so, like I said, it doesn't mean you need to be like leading somebody, but I've
mm,
got like 3 women that are starting up their own businesses based upon the fact that they're not wanting to do what they're currently doing. They're making a shift in their life. And so really, I think it really is just it's understanding yourself and just really having the confidence in
mhm,
understanding your own energetics because how someone leads is you and again it comes back to your blueprint. I want you to lead in the way that's most authentic to you. not
Yeah.
to somebody else or what my idea is. It really is, and this is why understanding numerology and energetics and all these other kinds of things is such a helpful tool,
Yeah.
because we're not trying to fix people. That's not what this is about. We're literally trying to get everybody to like find their path, find and start to see themselves more about how they navigate this world rather than how we've been told to navigate this world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What keeps popping in my head is what would you tell somebody that comes to see you and they know they're not on the right path,
Mm.
right? Like they know they're fighting against it, but it's just ridiculously scary to pivot.
Ooh, yeah, I hear you. I've been an entrepreneur now for 20 years. I'm actually
Yeah.
celebrating my 20th year. Um, I do have to say that, you know, that's sometimes hard. And I actually, this is where this is my zone of genius. I help
Mm,
people with transformation in transition and so on and so forth. So, say for instance, someone is working a job that they really dislike, but they want to leave it, but they don't know why and how. Quite
mhm.
often, we can actually find people's purpose in their codes. So, we usually look at the things that you're interested in, and literally, I do believe that your soul has done the jobs and taken the courses and all of that kind of stuff to get you to where you need to go. So for example, I have one client, I said, you know what? And I just get these little things that pop into my head sometime too. I'm really focused right now. Um,
Oh, we just lost your video, but that's okay. We have audio. We love technology when
love
it
tech.
works,
Sorry
right?
about that. Yeah.
That's okay.
I really just encourage people, like we can talk about, finding your purpose. And I hate to, allude to AI, but quite often I've actually trained my AI to be able to look at people's numerology and help me come up with like a list of things that they would be really good at based upon their energetics.
Yeah. Yeah. Chat GPT or chat AI is such a hot topic, but again, it's like anything, it's a tool,
It
right?
is just a tool.
It's
Yes.
just a tool. We were terrified of the internet. We were terrified of fax machines. We were terrified of,
We were terrified
online
of
banking.
Zoom.
Yes, Zoom, right. How does this work? So I always just say, it's okay. It's going to
Yeah.
be okay. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay.
And one of the beautiful things that I absolutely love about numerology is, so if someone comes to me and they've experienced some sort of trauma or something like that, I actually recommend therapy. I recommend strength based coaching or something like that. I do recommend like nervous system regulation, breath work, all of that kinds of things, because I really want people to understand that not every approach works for everyone.
Mhm.
But the big thing is that, you know, everyone is tailored, I do believe, because there's a lot of things out there right now that can help you understand who you are, like human design and astrology and so on and so forth. I do believe that we're coded for it. And
Mm.
so, again, it really just comes down to what resonates with you. I've had some people where I've said, "Oh, do you know numerology?" And they're like, "Yeah, I understand it." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And then I'm like, "So, do you experience it?" And they're like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And again, it comes back to having this experience with it. And then once I start to talk to them, they're like, "Oh, yeah." And it's
Mm.
just literally unraveling those layers, because we've been so pulled away from who we are naturally that we need to get back to that.
Mhm. Yeah, all about that. And I do think it's important that you said that it's not one size fits all.
No.
We are complex people,
Hmm.
and and when you're ready, things resonate.
Yeah.
That's just all. If it doesn't right now, that's okay. Don't rule it out,
Yeah.
but it's not resonating. And of course, the part of me that loves my profession said, "Thank you for referring people to counseling."
Oh, you know what? I'm a firm believer of counseling.
Yeah.
I've done it for, gosh, 30 plus years of my life. And I really do believe, especially if someone has gone through a very traumatic situation, that
Mm.
they should go to talk therapy and they should be, working that out with someone. One of the things, and I'll just share my own personal story with counseling, is that I would go in and I would talk and talk and talk, and some counselors are really good, and it's definitely shifted.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I, found with counseling and why I kind of lean on coaching or mentoring a lot more is I like to move people forward. I don't like them to stay in that puddle of, talking and talking and talking and it not getting them someplace. That's actually my natural strengths and innate talents is I like to
Mhm.
move people forward because I don't want them to stay stuck because I was there for a really long time. And not to say that it was detriment, it was actually probably what I needed to work through. But I think that this is the important part is that we have to take a look at our mental health, our self care, and all these other
Mhm.
kinds of things. Sometimes just through a different lens or a different way of, understanding ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't even believe it, but our time is just like whipping by. It's always how it is because I'm so curious about all these people doing such interesting things that you can't possibly know about, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoo. So let's get into the very ending. But if people took one thing away from this conversation, what would you most want them to understand about living a life that reflects their true purpose?
Yeah, so I believe that your purpose isn't something that you find, it's actually something that you deeply remember. Um,
Oh, say that again.
yeah, so your purpose isn't something that you find, it's something that you deeply remember.
Oh, I like that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, because your soul has come here for a reason. We are souls having a human experience. And
Mhm.
so when we truly understand our patterns, we honor our energy and then we take responsibility for that inner world. And then literally your life just naturally reflects who you truly are. And so this alignment isn't about becoming more, it's about coming home to yourself.
Mm. Well, I think that's the perfect way to leave the questions. Where can people that are listening on the radio find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, www.adrienneharris.ca. Everything is there. My book, my podcast, my coaching, my everything. I
Right.
also have an online community. If people are wanting to join that, they can join for 7 days for free just to experience, understand it. I've got some courses in there that are free that people can kind of go in, understand about numerology a little bit further. I also have an amazing masterclass coming up on February 12th called The Inner Currency. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And what is the name of your book?
My book is Breadcrumbs from the Universe, My Midlife Spiritual Awakening.
I like it. I like it. Well, Adrienne, thank you so much for this conversation. I love how you bring numerology into the realm of self awareness, choice, and personal responsibility. We talked so much about that, not as something that defines people, but as something that helps them understand themselves more clearly. So, as always, thank you for listening to Happy on Purpose, where real conversations remind us that clarity, connection, and growth are things we can choose on purpose. Until next time, I'm Janess. Thank you, Adrienne, so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.